Hey everyone, this is JoeLeMiracleMan, and welcome to another episode of God and Money in Real Estate. And I have our regular guest here, Dave Gallagly. Hey Dave.
Hey, Joe. Thank you so much for having me on board. It's a real pleasure to be able to uh, work with you, being able to educate people on mortgages and homes and buying and selling real estate. It's really a passion, I know, for both of us.
Yeah, so today's episode is going to be about finding the right home. So first of all, before you begin looking, you have to know what your financial budget is. So with my background as a licensed financial advisor, most financial advisors say that your housing budget should be about 1/3 of your total, your total monthly budget. So 33%. Just the principal, interest, tax, and insurance portion can go up to 46.9%. And that's true for FHA and conventional loans. And then the other part of housing might be utilities, garbage, water. So it's more than, and even maintenance. I would put maintenance into that housing budget. So my recommendation is keep all of that, the total housing to be at 33%. And that's of your gross household income. So some people might take more conservative and take it from your net household income. So that's even more conservative. And hey, the more conservative you can be, the more margin you'll have, each month for other things. So Dave, what are your thoughts on that part?
And, oh, I appreciate it, Joe. I think that's really wise. I think especially, we're talking about God here in finances and being good stewards of God's money that He's entrusted us to purchase a home. We hate to get overextended, so we can't do things if we want to help other people or just being to take care of our family in a very substantial way.
Yeah, it is you're right, and you're hitting on some great points here. It's just and it's something I've praying for and have grown and continue to grow in, just my generosity. And I think through life, and it's kind of a evolving thing, but we start off focusing on ourselves and making a living, and then we focus on our families. And especially with kind of the chaos that's going on in the world right now with the healthcare and the coronavirus and thing at this moment, it's easy to want to take care of self. But yeah, I've been praying for my heart to keep being focused on other people, keep seeing the needs, being generous, with the resources that God has given us. So yeah, if we can learn to, one of my, I guess, spiritual fathers is Joel Peed, from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So he helped me, come to faith. If we can lower our expenses, like throughout life, lower and lower our expenses. Society does the opposite. We increase our spending and increase our lifestyle. But if we can learn to lower it so that we have more to advance God's kingdom, we're going to be better off.
That is great, Joe. I totally agree with you. And I think as we get in today's podcast, we're going to be talking a lot about homes and ways to save money or to really looking for a quality home that's a good value and not overextending ourselves.
Yes. So let's talk about location. That's one of the key points in buying a home. So Dave, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think when I look at location, um, especially when I start talking with home buyers, they've got usually an idea of what places they want to live. Maybe they've heard about some great schools in Wyzetta or Roseville or Maple Grove, and they're like, "Oh, I really want to be there." And those are great things to be to hold on to and to actually have for your family. The great school. Other things to kind of consider is what's the crime rate in these communities, and those are usually pretty good. But you get into maybe you want to live downtown Minneapolis and you think, oh, all these new condos going up, they're beautiful. We're right in the middle of everything, by the river and great restaurants. But then, you get 2 or 3 blocks away, the crime can go up some. So it's really researching the areas you want to live, going into those areas with an open mind and really a mind of, hey, is this what I really want? And being able to filter through those things.
Yeah, I know that when my wife and I bought our home here in Maple Grove, we did want to. So when we would go to a home showing, I try to find some neighbors that might be outside and ask them about, how long have you lived here and what's the area like, and what's the crime rate like, or how comfortable they feel. So that was good intel. And we bought at a time when our oldest son was going to go into kindergarten. So schools were an important part. We researched the not only the school ranking, but sometimes that I'm not sure how accurate that is, but that definitely was the information we could find online. So that was definitely important. But I try to find just from my inner circle of friends, like who went to certain schools and what was their experience like. So yeah, that's definitely important if you have children.
One thing I thought about location as well. When I think of location, often people are thinking also about their employment. How far they have to actually drive to their employment. What's interesting with that is we don't know if we're going to be employed the same spot in a year from now. So really, to be really comfortable with that spot, because you might not want to be moving every other year, right? So having something that actually works for your employment, but also is working just for your life. That's a good spot that you want to raise a family in, or you want to socialize in. And I love the part that you talked about, Joe, about out meeting neighbors. And I think that really goes into a more than just the next door neighbor, maybe a house that you're looking at. There's actually cultures. Some neighborhoods are more get out on the porch and meet people, and some are a little bit more reserved. Let's just stay back to ourselves. Maybe they're larger parcels, and that's okay. It's just what you're looking for. You want more privacy, or do you want more engagement?
Yeah, and speaking of family, I know I'm speaking from, I guess, myself. I've bought one house for my family. You bought many homes for your business. But from my perspective, being around my family was important. So my parents live in Brooklyn Park. My youngest sister lived in Maple Grove at the time, and now moved away and then back to Maple Grove. My other sister lived in Rogers, so we wanted to stay around the Maple Grove, Brooklyn Park, maybe Champlin area. So I didn't want to go to like Ramsey County and St. Paul. And even though we did we do like those areas, Roseville's a great school district, and we entertained that, but we felt like it was more important to be around my siblings and my parents.
Yep. It's interesting that you bring that up about the family. I think about, we're both spiritual men, and I know some people in our Eckerd congregation, they wanted their children to be wanted their children to grow up with other faith-based families. And so they actually purposefully moved into an area, not necessarily right next door to, but they're within an area of people that they wanted their kids to raise. So there's a lot of criteria that can go into actually choosing a neighborhood.
Yeah, those are great points. Um, Another thing I remember was I did a little research on what might be happening in that city, businesses that were around there, like, corporate centers, and kind of maybe having a projection of what the future of that area would be like if more jobs were coming into the area, that helped the appreciation of the homes in that area. So that was kind of a consideration as well.
It's kind of neat when you said that. I thought of when I actually moved to the Twin Cities in 1986. At that point, South Minneapolis meaning South Minneapolis on the east side of 35, kind of over by, let's say, Chicago and Lake, which is whatever area it is today. But that area tend to be a little bit lower income area, which is fine. But we've seen a transition in that area where there's been some affluency coming in. There's been some restaurants and coffee shops. It's actually brought in a lot more younger people. It's actually brought the prices up of that area. We saw that happen in South. That was probably 30 years ago it started. Then we saw maybe 15 years ago up in Northeast Minneapolis, where we saw the same thing, kind of a transitional area. People bought in at moderate price. Over the course of a decade, prices have came up. So we see a lot of being able to watch neighborhoods and see them change.
Yeah, those are wise things to consider.
Yeah.
So what about like styles of homes and maybe the years that they were built? What are some of your thoughts on that as you shop for
Absolutely.
homes?
It's interesting as we're out looking at homes, especially with first-time home buyers. Often we'll go out and we'll look at, let's say an example, in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area here, we have houses that range from the 1870s, very few, a lot in the 1880s when you get down close to downtown, all the way through to current. And if you consider as you're looking at houses, one thing I ask my clients to do as a licensed realtor and contractor is to actually look at the year the house was built. Typically, if you look at the year the house is built, you'll find that year, depending on how the economy was in the area, will dictate the quality of the home. For example, I brought up the 1880s. When you go to an 1880s house, the economy in Minnesota was okay, wasn't great, wasn't terrible, but what you found in the construction is that often things were underbuilt. There are some beautiful homes on Summit Avenue and such in St. Paul, which are amazingly built, but as an average, they were underbuilt. The joists that hold up the floors were 2x6s compared to 2x8s or 2x10s. We see that the floors, if you look at how the supports are holding up those floors, have you ever been on a house where you walk around the floor and it goes up and down like this, right? And that's usually because either the foundation wasn't put in quite as well as it would have been today. They had materials that weren't quite as heavy. So that 1880s to reality-wise, 1910 kind of fit that. Then we got kind of the roaring 20s, right? There's a lot of money was coming in. People were having fun. They were spending money on houses. Quality came up substantially. So really from probably 1910 to low 30s, mid 30s, we kind of saw that. And then kind of an ironic thing happened. We saw the Great Depression. But the funny part is there wasn't as many houses built during that time, but the quality was still there. So the ones that did build had the quality. Then we go up to, and during this time, we're seeing hardwood floors, we're seeing stucco houses, quality, solid buildings. And then we go up into the 60s, really covers that era. Then we hit the 70s. And to actually make houses more inexpensively, they had to change a lot of the materials that they used. And in doing so, they lost some of the integrity. And so we saw a lot of wood-sided houses that were rotting faster. We saw the hardwood floors were being replaced by carpeting. Nothing wrong with carpet. It's just that there's going to be a plywood base compared to a hardwood floor. So we see in these times it just kind of dropped the quality a little bit. Then we see the mid 80s, it kind of picks up. We see new construction techniques actually start making homes better again. But it really does make a big difference of how we look at the price points of these homes.
So yeah, and I know that after 1978, that was a important year because lead-based paint changed, right? What do you know about that transition?
Well, it is. If you go back through all the years, lead was used in paint going back to the 1880s again. And through the years, the amount of lead used in paint dropped every couple decades to 1978, where there was a statute across the country that they eliminated the use of lead-based paint being used. So I think one thing we can do, we'll actually get a document that we can actually add with this that we'll show the percentages of lead-based paint per year when the house was made. So if you had, I don't have it right in front of me, but if a house is built in the 1950s, I think it's about like a 50% chance there's lead-based paint somewhere in the house.
Yeah, and that the age of the house does impact a little bit with the type of loans that are available. And by the way, Dave, I appreciate your knowledge and expertise in the construction of homes. That's beyond, my knowledge base. So I appreciate your insight in all that. But so if a home was built prior to 1978, then FHA loans particularly are very strict on peeling paint. And that's peeling paint anywhere in or outside the home, that the loan will not, pass if there's any peeling paint. So usually the appraisal inspection will catch that. I remember a very beautifully remodeled home in Maple Grove for one of my clients. The agent says, yeah, there's no peeling paint issues. This house is, newly renovated, and it was beautiful. But there was peeling paint on the underside of the gutters, or one of the gutters outside. I mean, you would never guess, or you would, I guess you might not even care about if there's peeling paint on the gutter. But that had to be, the appraisal caught it. It had to be scraped off and repainted, and just added another little. It wasn't necessarily a delay, but just added another step. So it's something to definitely watch out for.
It's interesting when you were talking about that, Joe, is that, and I wanted to bring this up, with all these homes that have lead-based paint in them, if you have a home or you're buying a home that might have lead-based paint in it, there's really, the only way you can actually get rid of it is to tear everything out. So what you have to do is actually seal it. That's the main thing that people worry about, is that scrape the paint, right? You should actually have a certified lead-based contractor come in to do that. That's to be totally upfront, and it's the correct way to do it. But they actually would come in, they would actually partition off a room and scrape the paint so that all the dust particles and such are gone. And then actually reapply a primer and a paint to seal in everything. And that way you're safe.
Okay, yeah, good advice. Talk about, so new construction, I thought about that. So you talk about ages of homes, but sometimes people, and I think I might want this someday, but a newly constructed home, everything's new. Yeah, talk about, do you have clients that are looking for that, and why might you consider that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's something about having something that's new, right? That it's actually two different ways. It's either one that you're buying off a stock that someone actually built and you're just coming in and buying it as it is, or you're building a custom home. You get all the details that you want. One thing, if you look at price points of a new home, let's say a starter new home, I think the average is right now for a beginning price point is at about $340,000. And if you look at a similar home that's totally rehabbed, I mean, that's new kitchen, new baths, new floors, windows, brought all the way up, you tend to spend about 15% more for a new home than you would for a totally rehab. It's just like new, but it isn't new. And so you start looking at those two going, okay, if I get all new for only 15% more, it might be worthwhile to do that. In the way homes are being built today, they're super tight, super energy efficient, really taking into consideration the energy code so that you have less monthly payments for your energy, and it's a beautiful alternative.
Yeah, someday I think I would want to have solar panels, or to be more energy efficient, and I guess lower my carbon footprint and things like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely something to consider. And hey, Dave, I'm just thinking about my own process, and when we chose our home, some of the things that I know I was cautious, or or mindful about was upside opportunity. Because I'm a numbers guy, and my wife didn't care about that stuff, but I did. She liked the fact that there was a red door. I told her, any door can be red for about $20. But anyway, so we had different thoughts on things. But I did like that there was a room that was unfinished. So through the years, I finished that room, turned it into a bedroom, so added value. And I was thinking about my growing family too, and maybe with my wife's parents moving in with us in the future. So it was a consideration. And I know I could add, or I could convert some of the living areas to, future bedrooms. So, and then the kitchen, there was opportunity for updating it and remodeling it. And so I guess those are things that I looked for. I guess I guess I wanted the home to be something that could evolve with our family and the needs of our family throughout the years.
So that would be kind of like the difference of buying a home that maybe was a little bit older, wasn't everything finished in it, compared to a brand new home. Is that you could actually add some value, bring some value by putting in a new bathroom, putting in a new kitchen, converting part of your unfinished basement into living space, which is probably one of for the dollars and cents, for the dollar you put into it, you get money out of it. Adding square footage is amazing for getting value. And I guess you couldn't actually do that in a new home. Most of the new homes, or a lot of the new homes, have basements that aren't finished. So you could add value there as well, as if you went the new home route.
Okay, what about pets? If someone has a family and they have pets, what's your advice for them?
In pets, I love pets. Oh, it's that's a real personal thing. I think from the home wise of is a home ready to have pets? Do you have is it a fenced in yard? You can actually put an invisible fence out. You can put a fence up and such. But I think on the inside wise, to know with pets, um, some of them are more cleanable. I mean, if you have like hardwood floors or hard surfaces, if they tinkle, it's a little easier to clean up on that compared to carpeting. And if they do, to have the right type of cleaners for the carpeting to get it out. I'm not sure if that's the kind of questions you're thinking of for pets, or.
Yeah, I'm just kind of brainstorming here, but also I'm thinking if, let's see, if there's dog parks in the area or veterinarians nearby, pet stores, I guess, if they're nearby. Um, so sometimes I don't know if necessarily certain cuisines matter for being. I noticed that for a long time there were no Vietnamese restaurants in Maple Grove. So just being Vietnamese, I need to get pho once in a while. But Brooklyn Park had next door to Maple Grove. There's like at least 6 restaurants, maybe 7 that I can think of that have some good Vietnamese food. But yeah, kind of just thinking about. I guess it's important to think about your lifestyle and what's in that area that can accommodate your lifestyle.
Joe, I was thinking about one thing as we kind of started down this path. I wanted to bring it back to that. When our topic is, finding the right home, and, just going back to the age of homes and all this type of thing. When I walk in with a client, I walk in, let's say I'm showing them as a realtor, right? And we start looking through the house. And as they're looking, all of a sudden I put on my general contractor's hat and I start looking at all the spots where there might be problems. Like when I walk into, maybe it's a 1930s house and they've got, they have usually not a lot of insulation up in the attics. And we might have saw ice dams this past winter. We had huge ones all over. And we see these spots up on the ceiling where there might have been some water damage. Something kind of to be considerate of. It's probably going to be an ongoing thing unless you repair it. Or you look underneath the sink and you see that, underneath the the drain mechanism, there's a little floor in there, and you see it kind of wavy, or maybe it's discolored. Then some water drippage there through the years, or maybe some mold growing up in there, because that's usually kind of a moist area, or can be. So I think it's just really being attuned to on the first look of maybe some issues that are there. And then I know we're going to do an episode later on having a professional inspector out, which I 100% agree that you need to do. They do an amazing job of pulling out and looking and finding any issues that might be there.
Yeah, great points. I think that can be some future episodes where we talk about the first, the home tour and what to look for, and another one with the professional inspection, because that's a lot of detail right there. But to our viewers, please comment, let us know of future topics or questions that you have that you want us to answer. But yeah, so we want to customize this to meet your needs there. But Dave, as we kind of wrap up here, are there some closing remarks or any other thoughts that you have about finding the right home?
Oh, I appreciate it, Joel. This has been a real pleasure for me. I think is when you're looking for a home, there's really two sides of that. There's the economic part where you put together your budget, you work with Joe on coming up with a loan that maybe makes sense. You go look at the home, you make sure you get the right area that works for you and your circumstances. You get inside the home, and I've said this before, most people know within 5 minutes of walking in a home if it's generally the things that they like, if it has the feel that they like. And then you step out of the feelings and you say, financially, does this home work for us? And I think if you kind of do that process, it gives you a good skeleton for finding the right home. It's been a real pleasure, Joe.
Yeah, thank you for being here as always. And also on the link, or I'm going to include in one of the links below, access to just kind of a rough budget. I mean, I really recommend all first-time home buyers and even, repeat buyers to make a budget with the new, monthly payment and try to see how that'll fit there. And there's a lot of things that I know financially when we bought that we didn't think of. I bought a snow blower, and I'm very grateful I bought one. So, but yeah, definitely recommended to buy a snow blower. Of course, lawnmower, rakes, shovels, and that's just exterior. And then trash cans, like each room now has a trash can, but we needed, I didn't think of that. There's a list of things that that we didn't think of. So definitely take time to count the cost, if you will, to your lifestyle, and even in the backyard. One thing we loved right away was the tree cover, and it was just beautiful and fun. We bought our home in September, and then the rude awakening in the fall when the leaves started falling down. Every year we go through at least about 130-gallon bags of leaves that we pile or we fill. So a lot of work there, but something we didn't count the cost on. But so learn from, I guess, my mistakes. Definitely be mindful of those things. But thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will see you next time in God and Money in Real Estate.